We now come to questions. Secretary of State for Scotland, Julie Minns.
Question number 1, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The UK Government is working closely with the Scottish Government to deliver for the people of Scotland. Since taking office, we have provided a record budget settlement to the Scottish Government, reversing both austerity and years of underfunding and ensuring communities get the support they deserve. I met with the Deputy First Minister earlier this month. This Labour Government, as the party of devolution, is already delivering an extra £11 billion for the Scottish Government's budget, £120 million of investment for Grangemouth and a defence dividend for Rosyth and Faslane.
Minns.
Mr Speaker, one example of what might be politely called ineffective relations between the Scottish and UK governments concerns bovine electronic identification. Instead of agreeing to adopt the same radio frequency as the UK and the rest of Europe, the Scottish Government has chosen to use high-frequency spectrum. The implications for the UK's largest auction mart in my Carlisle constituency will be a doubling of costs as they have to invest in 2 types of scanner. Will the Minister please press the Office for the Internal Market to look in detail at how auction houses and hauliers, like those in my constituency, will be placed at a competitive disadvantage thanks to the SNP government?
Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, my honourable friend raises an important point, not just for her constituents but for many others. While animal health is a devolved responsibility, I am troubled but not altogether surprised to learn that the Scottish Government has chosen to diverge from the approach being taken across the rest of the UK and indeed in Europe, with all of the consequent difficulties she describes. The Office of the Internal Market, of which she spoke, produced a report on this issue in 2025 and recognised that some businesses, such as larger livestock auctions, could face higher costs if the system is not managed well. My right honourable friend can nonetheless be assured that the UK Government at least remains committed to seamless trade within the United Kingdom.
David Mundell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I begin by paying tribute to the former Scottish Cabinet Secretary Jean Freeman, who sadly passed away this month. I dealt extensively with Jean in the implementation of the Scotland Act and always found her very professional and personable. Can I also hope that the Secretary of State's visit to New Zealand was a particularly successful one, although it did seem to be an extremely long way to go just to avoid Anna Sarwar. The Secretary of State may be aware that there is a very successful programme for HIV testing in England, a HIV testing week. Could he make representations to the Scottish Government that not only is there an HIV testing week in Scotland, but radically it is the same week as in England, so that it could benefit from national focus?
Mr Speaker, can I thank the honourable gentleman for his characteristic grace and generosity with which he asked the question. I can assure him it was a long-planned trip. It was establishing relations that, frankly, should have been established some time ago in the government of which he served. But nonetheless, we're very proud of our defence relationship with New Zealand, and I look forward to being with an ass in Paisley on Friday. As far as the substance of his question is concerned, can I commend the right honourable member for his advocacy on this issue over many years. The UK Government recently launched an HIV action plan for England with the aim of ending new HIV transmissions by the end of the decade. Our recent HIV testing week has helped build public knowledge and understanding so that we can reconnect thousands with the healthcare they need, reduce stigma and, crucially, identify undiagnosed cases. While, of course, as he knows, healthcare in Scotland is a devolved matter for the Scottish Government, we support any initiatives that ensure people across the United Kingdom get the testing they need.
Susan Murray, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Transport in Scotland has devolved, but Labour's new EV tax is not. And Scotland is home to the largest constituencies by area in the UK. This will mean that many rural Scots who already pay more for electricity at home will pay more tax despite having less access to charging infrastructure. So can the Secretary of State tell me what discussions they have had with the Scottish Government on the impact of this tax? And will they work with the Scottish Government to improve charging access and to create a mandatory community benefit scheme for those who see the turbines of the Green Revolution from their windows but don't see a fair reflection in their bills?
Hear, hear. Speaker, many of us know from experience of family, friends and others of the difficulty of many charging stations across Scotland, causing the range anxiety, particularly in rural areas, of which she speaks. The new electric vehicle excise duty introduces a fairer approach to sharing costs generated by all vehicle drivers through wear and tear on roads and congestion. As a former Transport Secretary, the reality is, as we transition to electric vehicles, it's necessary to look at the taxation of electric vehicles appropriately. While those living in rural areas tend to drive more than those living in urban areas, EV drivers are also more likely to have a dedicated home charger, which allows access to the lowest charging costs, and this ensures that EVs remain the cheaper, greener choice. But nonetheless, I can assure her that we do talk to the Scottish Government on a range of issues.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can I associate myself with the comments by other colleagues about the sad loss of Jean Freeman? Mr. Speaker, this has been a difficult few weeks for another difficult few weeks for Scottish Labour. So, for the benefits of the House, when the Scottish Labour senior politicians have no faith in this government, could the Secretary of State maybe outline what are the major policy differences between them?
Mr. Speaker, firstly, let me, and I should have done this in response to the former Secretary of State's earlier question, associate myself with remarks that he offered in relation to the late Jean Freeman. She was a public servant of distinction who served both in the Cabinet and indeed in the Scottish Parliament for a number of years. In relation to his question, he talked about this being a difficult few weeks. The terrible truth is that we've had a difficult couple of decades under the SNP, whether that is their failure to be able to build ferries in relation to transport, whether it's the falling education standards, whether it's their inability to get a grip on waiting times. The real issues that are of concern to Scotland is avoiding a third decade of SNP failure.
Stephen Gethins. Unsurprisingly, the Secretary of State hasn't been able to tell me that there are any differences, because this is the sad truth. When it comes to every issue, Keir Starmer's most loyal supporters are in Scottish Labour. When it came to raising tax on SMEs, no problem. When it came to scrapping the winter fuel allowance, no problem. When it came to the two-child cap that even kicked people out the party, no problem. But when it comes to their own jobs, then there's a problem. Does the Secretary of State understand why Labour are falling so far and so fast?
Mr. Speaker, he talks about sad truths. The sad truth in relation to jobs is that 1 in 7 young Scots between 16 and 24 are not in either employment, education or training. The Scottish Government, of which he served, also uphold another sad truth, which is it's hard to think of a single area of Scottish public life over the last 19 years where we've seen an improvement. Scottish schools used to be the envy of the world. His government has delivered falling standards. The Scottish National Health Service, with brilliant staff, contrasts very badly with the level of progress that's being made by colleagues down here in relation to waiting lists. Whether it's being weak on defence, inadequate on further education colleges, or generally just a secret and inadequate government, there's a whole lot of change coming in May, I hope.
Robin Swan.
Question number 2, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I begin by thanking the honourable member for his consistent and thoughtful engagement on this bill. The Government is committed to delivering truth and accountability for those who are bereaved or seriously injured during the Troubles, which is why we've introduced the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill in October. The previous Government's Legacy Act delivered no real support to veterans in legacy processes. The Troubles Bill will put in place deliverable protections designed in line with our human rights obligations and in consultation with veterans, including those from Scotland. And I can confirm that the Scottish Veterans Commissioner met with the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland just in December.
Robin Swan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, can I join within the commemorations for Jean Freeman, having served with her during her period as Health Secretary. But can I ask the Scottish Minister then, in regards to the question that I asked, was actually has the Scottish Secretary of State met with the Scottish Veterans Commissioner in regards to the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill? Because this piece of legislation will have a dramatic effect on veterans across the United Kingdom, no matter where they served, and I think it would be best that the Scottish office also knew the impact that it was going to have.
So I would be delighted to meet with the Scottish Veterans Commissioner, but as you will appreciate, the Northern Ireland Office leads on these matters. And we do, and we should put on record, we owe a huge debt to the 250,000 Northern Ireland veterans who served with honour to bring about peace in Northern Ireland. And it's this Government's firm view that no veteran who properly carried out their duty should be forced to face an endless cycle of legal uncertainty.
Tim Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Labour promised to renew the nation's contract with those who served our country. Therefore, can the Minister set out what support the new veterans strategy will have for the around 10,000 veterans in Glasgow?
You're right, James.
I do agree with my honourable friend. This government is firmly committed to ensuring that those who have served receive the support, respect and recognition that they deserve. Our new veteran strategy, underpinned by our commitment to bring the Armed Forces Covenant fully into law, includes £50 million for Valour, the first ever UK-wide government approach to veteran support. For veterans in Glasgow and across Scotland, this means clearer pathways to services, better advocacy and a system that understands and recognises their unique experiences.
Julie Reid.
Question number 3, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With permission, I will answer questions 3 and 9 together. Scotland is at the heart of keeping the UK secure at home and strong abroad. Just last week, as has already been referenced, I visited Australia, New Zealand and Singapore, working to strengthen our defence partnerships and increase export opportunities for the Scottish defence industries. That defence dividend has already delivered. Record orders worth £10 billion for the Clyde shipyards, new investments of £340 million in Rosyth, £250 million in Faslane, and a contract of £453 million for Leonardo in Edinburgh.
Thank the Secretary of State for that answer. This government's increase in defence spending is delivering £2 billion a year for Scotland, as well as 12,000 jobs. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that the greatest threat to my constituents in East Kilbride and Straven is an SNP government that plays student politics with defence and won't use its existing powers to back Scottish industry, young people and our national security?
Not for the first time, Mr Speaker. I find myself in agreement with my honourable friend. The UK Labour Government has committed to the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War, totalling £270 billion in this Parliament alone. And in contrast, the SNP-led Scottish Government's position on public funding for defence is risking jobs, skills and investment in Scotland. Despite record funding provided by the UK Government, they are weak in defence, dismal on further education, and Scotland deserves better than a third decade of a failed SNP government.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Labour's defence industrial strategy will strengthen our security across the whole United Kingdom and deliver an unprecedented growth deal for Scotland. £250 million of UK-wide investment and £182 million for skills. And for me, this is personal. My grandfather worked in the Glasgow shipyards, part of a proud tradition that has served the whole UK. Does my right honourable friend agree that a strong Scottish defence sector delivered by a UK Labour government strengthens all of us?
Mr Speaker, can I thank my honourable friend for his question? My own grandfather worked as an engineer in Glasgow, so I appreciate the proud heritage of which he speaks. The Government's defence industrial strategy will deliver a record boost for Scotland's economy, creating highly skilled jobs for years to come. Alas, when the SNP-led Scottish Government stepped back, it took the UK Labour Government to step in and give young people the welding skills they needed. As we mark the 4th anniversary of Putin's invasion of Ukraine, the security challenges facing NATO are clear for almost all of us to see, and yet the Scottish Government remains committed to unilateral nuclear disarmament.
Kirsty Jardine.
Very much, Mr Speaker. Many of my constituents in Edinburgh West work in the Leonardo's factory, which the Secretary of State mentioned, and they contribute hugely to this economy. But they are concerned at the contradiction between what the UK Government says and what the Scottish Government says about defence spending. So can he detail just exactly how the Government will support them going forward?
Join the European.
So, Mr Speaker, I had the chance to visit the Leonardo facility with my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Defence in recent works, and saw for myself the transformation that had been witnessed since it was originally Ferranti, with the strong support of the UK Government behind it. But she raises a really important question, which is when you talk to the defence prime companies in Scotland, they cannot get Scottish Government civil servants to even explain the policy that the First Minister announced last September. That is imperiling investment, it is imperiling apprenticeships, and it is imperiling jobs in Scotland, and Scotland deserves better.
Alex Easton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Would the Minister agree that increased defence orders in Scotland have the potential to strengthen the defence industry and industrial base across the whole of the United Kingdom? And will he make an assessment of the opportunities this presents, in particular for Northern Ireland companies?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I find myself in agreement that with that biggest sustained increase in defence expenditure since the Cold War, not simply in Scotland, where it supports about 12,000 Scottish jobs, but in Northern Ireland, in Wales and in England, there are real opportunities for a defence dividend. That is why the defence industrial strategy is UK-wide. It's why, notwithstanding the weakness on defence and on economic support from the Scottish Government, we remain committed to that strategy.
Gregory Stafford.
Question number 4, sir.
Secretary of State.
Firstly, I would respectfully remind the honourable gentleman that it was the Conservatives who brought in the energy profit levy in 2022. Oil and gas will be a central part of the energy mix in the UK for decades to come, but it's also right to recognise that there's a transition that needs to be managed, and there was an abject failure of the previous government to manage that transition. The Chancellor confirmed at the budget that we are ending the EPL on the 31st of March 2030.
Gregory Stafford.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the Secretary of State is totally uninterested in the reality of what's happening in the industry because of the EPL. 1,000 jobs a month are being lost as a direct result of this government's decision. All the while, we're importing more at a higher cost with higher emissions. Jobs are being lost, investments being turned away, and our energy security is being undermined. At the same time, despite what the Minister says, bills are going up for my constituents. Why will he not actually rectify this and sort this problem out for the whole country?
So, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if he's had a chance to listen to the radio this morning in terms of bills and see the progress that is being made there. But let's introduce some facts. Let's introduce some facts to the debate. This isn't a trend in terms of the North Sea that emerged yesterday. This is a mature basin. There's been a 75% reduction in production between 1999 and 2024. We've been a net importer since 2003, and we lost more than 70,000 jobs from the basin in the last 10 years when the Conservatives were in power.
Can I associate myself with the remarks on Jean Freeman? Does my right honourable friend agree that while oil and gas in the UK will play a vital role for decades to come, we have great opportunities for Scottish businesses in renewables, including at the McNeill yard in my constituency, ideally placed to deliver renewables infrastructure as well as vital defence contracts, for example, programme Euston?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend's entirely right. I had the opportunity to visit the Navantia yard in Methil just a couple of weeks ago. It was just over a year ago that, as a Labour government, we stepped in to secure the future both of the Methil and the Arnish yards. Since then, Navantia have announced a further £12 million of investment in the Methil site. Just another example of what's possible when a UK Labour government and industry work together for Scotland's benefit.
Andrew Bowie, Shadow Secretary of State.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. I would have preferred that Europe could do with just green energy, but the reality is different, and I fundamentally believe it is better for Europe to get gas from Denmark than from countries outside our continent. Those are the words of the Danish Energy Minister, a minister in a government that's looking to extend licences in that country. The Danes can see what is blindingly obvious, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to have a demand for oil and gas for many years, and it is better we use our own, support our own economy, support our own workers, and support the existing industry that will invest in the future. So who does the Secretary of State agree with? The Danish Energy Minister, the head of GB Energy, Scottish Renewables, trade unions, everyone else, or his colleague, the Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's worth reminding the honourable gentleman that it was actually a Conservative government that introduced EPL. We've been clear that the EPL comes to an end in 2030. It's also worth pointing out, of course, that oil and gas in the North Sea is sold into global markets. And it's also worth pointing out that we lost a third of the jobs in the North Sea under the government in which he served. So I'm very happy to listen to other voices. About the last voice I'd listen to would be the Scottish Conservative Party.
Andrew Bowie.
But global markets. Supporting the Scottish oil and gas industry supports 90 times more jobs than imports. Supporting the oil and gas industry yields 150 times more income tax and national insurance revenues than imports. Supporting the Scottish oil and gas industry delivers 400 times more oil and gas company taxes than imports. And supporting the Scottish oil and gas industry has a gross value added of £96 million to the UK compared to zero from imports. Everyone else understands it. So please, can the Secretary of State explain to everyone in the country what on earth is this government playing at?
Mr. Speaker, there is an aching gap, the width of the North Sea, between what he says and what they did. The reality is, for all of his conversations and protestations now about supporting Scottish oil and gas industry workers, what is the reality? Under his government, we lost a third of the North Sea's workforce. They failed time and time again to come up with a plan, and it falls to Labour once again to clean up their mess.
Total correct.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 5.
Secretary of State.
My honourable friend and I both know that the Tartan Army will be out in full force supporting Scotland's FIFA World Cup campaign this summer. The UK Government is working with partners in the host countries and the SFA to provide guidance to supporters on travel security and consular assistance. We are determined to help everyone have a fantastic and safe World Cup, hopefully beyond the group stages.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Despite fears of trade tariffs, I've checked, and the price of a pint of beer in Boston, Massachusetts, where Scotland are due to play their first game, is about $8 a pint. And that's a bargain, Mr. Speaker, because the SNP want to charge their fans £750 a pint to have a drink with the member for Aberdeen South, who unusually is not in his seat today. Now, I'm always open for a pint with the opposition, but would the Secretary of State rather have a beer in Boston with the Tartan Army or have a pint of bitter with the SNP?
Mr. Speaker, can I commend my honourable friend for his question? I'm not sure I'm going to be coming down the road to have a pint with the member for Aberdeen South anytime soon. In fact, come to think of it, I'd walk 500 miles to avoid having a beer and a blether with him.
Speak sharp.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm quite surprised at that last question there, because one of the things that Scotland qualifying for the World Cup brings is a unity to the nation. We're all looking forward to Scotland competing for the first time since 1998, and we're all going to get selfies. It'll be us with the Tartan Army. Do you think there's any chance that we'll get a photograph with the First Minister and Anas Sarwar?
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, I just respectively point out that we qualified under a Labour government this time, and the last time when I was there in the Stade de France, it was a UK Labour government.
Speaker, question number 6.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Scotland's hospitality businesses at the heart of our high streets and communities are the engines of Scotland's economy. The UK Government has helped businesses across the country by stabilising public finances, focusing on driving economic growth and putting more money in people's pockets. In Scotland, of course, key levers such as rates, business development, skills and planning are devolved to the Scottish Government. So perhaps the honourable members in the SNP benches can explain why the Scottish Government has failed so miserably to support Scotland's hospitality sector in the way it deserves.
John Mum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I met with Nick and Trish, who own Burt's Hotel in Melrose. Like many other people have done, they explained the immense pressure they're under as a result of her government's jobs tax and the SNP government's eye-watering hike in business rates. So does the Minister think that the government's increase in employers' national insurance has helped or hindered the hospitality sector?
Mr. Speaker, our changes to employers' national insurance were part of raising the revenue needed for the changes in public services from which his constituents will benefit, and mine, due to the record settlement for the Scottish Government. I would just say to the honourable gentleman, however, that protestations of fealty to the hospitality sector would ring more true had 7,000 pubs not shut under the Conservatives.
Please, Patricia Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, any support for Scottish hospitality businesses is welcome. However, the recent Scottish budget simply tinkers around the edges, with many businesses still falling for a 400% tax rise hike. Does my honourable friend agree that a fundamental overhaul and redesign of the current system is required, and so that we can deliver a stronger economic growth in Scotland?
My honourable friend is, as usual, quite correct. Scottish businesses are facing eye-watering rate hikes, while the SNP government tinkers around the edges of a fundamentally broken system. Meanwhile, Anas Sarwar has been clear. Scottish Labour would revive our high streets with a fundamental overhaul of business rates. Right now, jobs and businesses are at risk, and we want to reset the balance between our local businesses and the online giants.
Shadow Secretary of State, Andrew Barr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, given the Secretary of State still expects us to believe the Prime Minister has faith in Anna Sarwar's judgment, it's quite clear the Labour Party can still have a laugh. But they do seem to have an aversion to having fun. Why else would they be waging a war against Scottish pubs? Because just like Scottish Labour's election campaign, the sector in Scotland is hanging on by a thread. Last year, one pub in Scotland closed every single week. But it isn't just pubs, cafes, restaurants, chip shops, all facing the same. So will he and his Scottish Labour colleagues join Russell Finlay and the Scottish Conservatives in our call for a pubs and hospitality business to be exempt from business rates rises this year? And will he do what he can to ensure his government stands up for Scottish hospitality? That would surely be something to raise a glass to.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know if the honourable gentleman heard me about the Conservatives' record. 7,000 pubs lost under their watch. A package of support has, of course, been presented by my right honourable friend for pubs in England by the Treasury, meaning that there is already extra money for the Scottish Government to spend in this area. So I would encourage Scottish Government ministers to step up support for the hospitality sector using the Barnett consequentials that this Government has already provided.
Right.